Oh. We're back on MorningLine. Our guest with us this morning, Dr. Michelle Fiscus. She's the medical director with Tennessee Immunization Program with the Tennessee Department of Health. And, as we went to break, another one of the Facebook folks had made reference to, live virus being injected and if that could be transmitted to someone else because they're being, are live viruses used anymore? And if they are in certain vaccines, can that be a threat?
Sure. There are a few live virus vaccines. And when we say live virus, we mean live attenuated virus, which means that that virus is severely weakened so that it has really no significant ability to actually infect someone. So the flu, the nasal flu vaccine is a live virus vaccine, the MMR and chickenpox vaccines, and then the rotavirus vaccine, which is given orally to babies. Those are live virus vaccines. They are very safe. You can get the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine even if you have a contact who is immune compromised, and the reason is that you are a much greater threat being unvaccinated to that person than you are if you receive the vaccine. There is no ability to shed measles, mumps, and rubella after receiving the MMR vaccine, so we hear a lot about that.
Okay.
But one of the reasons why we no longer give oral polio vaccine is because people were able to shed that vaccine strain of polio virus in their stools, and then potentially transmit that to immune compromised people. So it became to a point where the only people we're seeing with measles anymore in the world were the ones who were getting it because they got it from someone who got the oral vaccine. So while that vaccine wiped out every other case of polio in the world, it was causing a rare case of polio, and that's why we no longer use that vaccine.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm getting some questions here, a comment here. Someone says, oh, I'm being terrible because I'm not allowing, some of these parents to express their views on whether or not they think it's a good idea or not. And I'm making it very clear that I think it's a public health issue and that the vast majority of science backs up the value of that. Now, on the other hand, if there are parents that have questions, I guess the issue here would be, look, I don't really have an issue. If a parent chooses not to, I may disagree with that, but they may have another point of view. But from the public health standard, it is a public health issue is the problem. I mean, if it was just their family and it couldn't spread, I know you still would be concerned about their children and you wouldn't want them. From my perspective, if you want to do that and play with some Russian roulette with your child's family this way, which is the way I'll view it, you may think you're protecting your child by not vaccinating them, that's fine. Who am I to tell a parent how to raise their kid? The difference, though, is that it can affect others, is what you're saying.
So many folks who choose not to vaccinate their children also don't have a healthcare provider for their child. And it's really important to have a healthcare provider who is expert in these issues, helping to advise on those decisions. So there are children who cannot receive vaccines for very good medical reasons. And that's a decision that you should be making in concert with your child's medical provider. For parents who are questioning that have a particular concern about their particular child or something that they've heard, I would encourage them to contact their child's healthcare provider or visit their local Department of Health and have a discussion with one of the healthcare providers there about that. But where we're concerned is that in the case of something, especially like measles, where if someone becomes infected, they're contagious 4 days before they know they're sick until 4 days after their rash goes away. So if we have a child who gets infected with measles, they can be out at the McDonald's playground, they can be at Chick-fil-A, they can be at the mall, they can be at daycare, spreading measles to other people 4 days before we ever know that child is sick. And then the ability to contain that outbreak because of what that child has exposed people to becomes very difficult, because then those people are infectious, and that's where it starts to spiral. And the only way to stop those outbreaks is with vaccine.
All right, let's go to Joe. Joe, good morning. Hi, Joe.
Good morning, Nick. This might be a little bit off subject, but it's for elderly people. What does the doctor think of the shingles vaccine? And could she address that issue a little bit?
Sure. Thanks for your question, Joe. That's it's really important. So we haven't talked a lot about elderly folks and vaccines. And
we just got a call. Someone 70 years old and saying they had a measles vaccine when they were a child. Do they need a booster? But go ahead.
Yeah. So the shingles vaccine specifically. So shingles is the disease that people who have had chicken pox get, and that disease can be chronic. It causes blisters, and it's very painful, and it can come and go. So as of the age of 50, you're eligible to get a shingles vaccine. You can get it at your local pharmacist. You can get it through your healthcare provider. It is in a little bit of a shortage right now, so it may be a little bit hard to find. I know I called Walgreens to get mine. I just turned 50, and they put me on a waiting list. But it is really important to get because shingles is pretty miserable to the person. It can cause some health issues with them, and people who are broken out with shingles can then transmit chicken pox to children who have not been vaccinated or to people who are immunocompromised.
We have someone asking, I mean, what's the source on your claim that those who don't get vaccinated don't have medical health care providers? What makes you say that?
Oh, so not that they all don't have medical health care providers, but in a lot of my interactions, I was in private practice for 17 years. I have worked with a lot of families, and they often tell me of their friends who never have been to see a pediatrician with their child, or so there is definitely a set of community who both don't believe in traditional medical care and also choose not to vaccinate. So I'm saying that people who don't see medical care providers often also don't have vaccines. Either that's because they don't have access or because they choose not to seek care.
Okay. All right. Let's go to Nikki. Hi, Nikki. Hello, Nikki.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. Go ahead. What's on your mind?
Okay, I have a question. I have a great niece who is 6 months old. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. She's 6 months old. Now, I have a 3-year-old granddaughter and a 6-year-old granddaughter, and they have been sick. Okay, my 6-month-old great niece has not been vaccinated because her mother is one of the types of mothers that I don't know what somebody done told her. But I'm worried about my great niece being around my sick grandchildren.
Sure. Yeah, so thanks for that question. So most likely your older grandchildren, if they're ill right now, probably have a cold, and that's probably caused by a virus. And most viruses, common cold viruses, we don't have a vaccine for. So kids get lots and lots of viral infections, thousands of viral infections over their early childhood years. But I agree with you. I'm concerned that your infant grandchild has never been vaccinated because there are real threats out there. The flu. Your grandchild, if they're 6 months old, is eligible to get flu vaccine, and we're in the middle of flu season right now. There is Haemophilus influenza, which is not the flu, but a different type of bacteria that is very much out there that can cause problems. There is a pneumococcus, which is a type of bacteria that can cause serious infection in young children. So while we don't see polio in this country at this point, and we haven't seen diphtheria in many years, and we do vaccinate against those conditions, there are also diseases within those vaccines that are recommended that we can see on a fairly regular basis.
All right. On that note, we'll take a quick break. Be back with our final segment with our guest. More of your calls and comments. We're streaming live on Facebook at newschannel5.com right after this.